The Heliox Vanguard Academy was not a place where humans normally existed, much less past selection. It was carved into the side of a drifting megastructure older than most recorded civilizations, its corridors filled with the thunderous footfalls of species bred for war. The 6-meter Corthans, the crystalline seraphids, the silent Vilker hunters whose eyes could track motion at speeds humans could barely register. This was where the galaxy trained its apex predators. So when Cadet Lyra Halden stepped through the induction gates, the instructors stopped mid-stride. Humans applied every year. Humans were rejected every year. Small, soft-skinned, slow-healing, limited lifespan creatures simply weren't designed for the kind of brutality the Vanguard demanded. Yet Lyra stood there, calm, straight-backed, and carrying a weapon no one had seen before. It was a long, obsidian-edged saber wrapped in a dark cloth that looked ancient even by alien standards. The hilt bore geometric spirals that spiraled into one another like fractal mirrors. The blade was older than alloyed steel, but hummed faintly, with an unmistakable energy signature. Instructor Vel'krath, the Vrekian whose taloned feet left gouges in the metal floor with each step, was the first to approach. "That weapon is not permitted for cadets," he growled, his voice vibrating the air. "State your origin, human." Lyra met his compound eyes without flinching. "The blade is part of my admission. Your commandant approved it." The other instructors exchanged confused glances. No human had ever gotten this far in the process. None had recommendations directly from the commandant. Vel'krath extended a serrated forearm. "Unwrap it." Lyra hesitated for half a breath, choosing her moment, and then pulled away the cloth. The murmuring began instantly. Across the obsidian surface, etched into the black metal like pale scars, were battle coordinates. Hundreds of them, spread across star systems that had seen conflicts long before Earth joined the coalition. Some marked regions that had been sealed, forgotten, erased from public memory. The Seraphid instructor leaned in, crystalline wings chiming. "Impossible. These are from the Cothuan extinction front. Humans were not present." Lyra said nothing. Vel'krath's voice dropped into something dangerous. "Human, where did your species obtain a blade forged in the war of the first collapse?" Lyra tightened her grip on the hilt. "It didn't come from my species." Her eyes locked on his. "It came from my family." The chamber fell silent. The galaxy had always assumed humanity was new, inexperienced, naive. But the blade said otherwise. The blade said humans had been fighting in the shadows for a very long time. The instructors stood in a semicircle around Lyra, as though approaching a relic known to explode. Even the Vilker hunter, whose species prided itself on showing no emotion, tilted his head in visible unease. The blade hummed with a soft vibration, as if aware of the attention. Vel'krath finally broke the silence. "Explain." Lyra slid the cloth back over the weapon, but did not sheath it. Instead, she held it cradled in both hands, the way a historian might hold a forbidden artifact. "This saber has been passed down through 4 generations," she said. "Each bearer served in conflicts my world doesn't officially acknowledge." The crystalline seraphid, Instructor Vel'krath, chimed with a sharp, crystalline trill, her form of disbelief. "Humans have not been warp-capable long enough to appear in even a fraction of these wars. Unless you claim your family's time travel." Lyra met her shimmering gaze. "Nothing so dramatic." Vel'krath stepped closer, towering over her. "Then what is your claim?" "That humans were present," Lyra said steadily, "long before Earth joined the coalition. Only not as citizens. Not as explorers." Her voice softened, taking on a weight the instructors weren't expecting. "As shadows, as assets, as deniable tools." Varala's wings flickered with unease. "You are suggesting your species knowingly participated in black operations beyond its own technological level." "Not knowingly," Lyra corrected. "Not as a species. Only a few families. Mine among them." A hush fell again. The Academy was known for many things. Unraveling lies was one of them. They were trained to detect deception from pupils who could bend light with their bodies or mask their brainwaves. But Lyra's heartbeat remained calm, breathing steady, body language controlled. Too controlled for a cadet, even an alien one. Instructor Threx, a six-limbed Zerati tactician, finally spoke, mandibles clicking in thought. Your claim implies that a clandestine arm of the Coalition, or something outside it, recruited humans secretly for decades. Lyra nodded once. And that your blade, Threx continued, is proof. Lyra held it out slightly, not to threaten, but to show the faint map etched along its flat edge. When she touched one of the markings, it glowed dimly beneath her finger. These coordinates, she said quietly, belong to missions carried out by my family. Each generation carved their war into the blade. My great-grandmother fought on Vasker Ridge when she was 17. My grandfather served on the Dead Spine front. My mother never told me hers. Zarvathek's eyes narrowed. And you? What battles do you claim to have survived? Lyra's expression shifted, just slightly. Enough for the instructors to realize that her silence wasn't inexperience. It was restraint. I'm here to finish what they started, she said. But not as a shadow this time. I want to serve openly, if your academy will allow it. Threx looked around at his fellow instructors. We don't train ghosts. No, Lyra replied. You train legends. A low rumble passed through the room. Half challenge, half approval. The instructors didn't believe her story fully. Not yet. But they believed her conviction. That was enough to test her. Zarvathek gestured toward the arena hatch. Very well, human. Let us see if your legacy can bleed. The doors opened, revealing the maze, an ever-shifting labyrinth built to break even the strongest cadets. Lyra exhaled once, slow and controlled, and stepped inside. The Academy's training maze was not a structure. It was a living algorithm. Walls slid like tectonic plates. Floors pivoted without warning. Ceilings descended in crushing patterns meant to reward instinct over thought. No two cadets ever faced the same layout. Some didn't even make it past the first rotation. From the observation deck above, the 5 instructors watched as Lyra stepped into the shifting corridors with the composed caution of someone entering a place she had studied her entire life. She is too calm, Varala noted, crystalline wings shimmering in analytical flickers. Most humans panic at the first wall movement. She is not most humans, Threx replied. Look at her stance. She's memorized kill zones before even seeing them. Below, Lyra moved as though reading invisible currents. The floor trembled softly, an indicator that the maze's first phase was about to begin. She counted 2 seconds in her head. The shadows on the left shifted. The air pressure dipped. There, a wall smashed across the corridor with enough force to pulverize bone, but Lyra was already sliding under it, one knee grazing the floor. She rose without breaking momentum, sprinting toward the next corner before the wall even locked into place. Zarvathek grunted. She anticipated it. Not anticipated, Threx corrected. Predicted. Inside the maze, Lyra's breathing remained slow and even. The dim overhead lights flickered as the second phase activated. Razor drones. Sleek, wingless machines that launched from slits in the walls, slicing the air with monofilament edges. Lyra didn't draw her family blade. She didn't need to. Instead, she kicked off the nearest wall, flipping sideways so a drone sliced through empty space beneath her. She snatched a loose panel fragment from the floor mid-motion and hurled it with precise force, striking a drone's intake port. It spiraled, clipped another drone, and the 2 machines detonated in a burst of sparks. From above, Threx whispered, "That is not Academy training." "No," Zarvathek agreed. "That is field combat." The drones reconfigured, now attacking in coordinated swarms instead of solitary strikes. Lyra sprinted into a narrow passage, then abruptly stopped. The instructors leaned forward. "What is she doing?" Varala asked. "That dead end will trap her." The drones barreled toward her. Lyra placed a hand on the wall. 3 quick taps. The instructors froze. She wasn't running. She was counting. "Now," she whispered. The entire corridor rotated 90 degrees, becoming a vertical shaft. Lyra fell, not uncontrolled but guided. She angled her body, sliding along the inner wall while the drones, unable to adapt, slammed together in a catastrophic cluster, their remains raining past her like metallic hail. She landed on her feet. Zarvathek's voice rumbled. She knew the maze timing. Impossible, Virala countered. The maze is randomized. Phrex's mandibles clicked. Not entirely. Patterns emerge if one has experience. Zarvathek turned sharply. Humanity has no experience with coalition-grade shifting structures. Officially, Phrex said. Below, Lyra paused only when the third phase of the maze began. Total sensory deprivation. The lights cut out. Sound dampeners kicked in. Even the gentle hum of power vanished. For most cadets, this was where panic set in. Lyra only whispered into the dark, "So you're finally here." She drew her blade. The runes glowed. Not with light, with memory. The instructors watched as the dark swallowed her. And she moved anyway. She was not navigating the maze. She was navigating something older. Something she had trained for long before she ever learned what the academy even was. When the sensory dampeners engaged, the maze became a tomb, silent, airless, dimensionless. For most cadets, this phase triggered collapse within minutes. Some clawed at the walls, vomiting from disorientation. Others curled into a ball, waiting for extraction. But in the pitch black, Lyra's pupils barely dilated. She knew this place. Not this maze, this kind of darkness. She held her blade loosely, its faintly pulsing runes illuminating nothing, casting no light. The markings weren't meant to be seen. They were meant to be felt. Deep in the observation deck, Instructor Vel'krath tilted her head. Her pulse hasn't changed. Impossible. Even the strongest species experience a spike during deprivation. Zarvathek crossed two of his arms. She is regulating herself. A trained calm. Not academy trained, Phrex muttered, eyes narrowing. Below, Lyra stepped forward, unshaken by the void, tracing her fingers along the wall. Not to orient herself, but to count the vibrations. Every 4 seconds, the kinetic plates behind the structure pulsed. That meant the next chamber was preparing to activate. 3 seconds. 2. 1. She ducked. A slicing beam gashed across where her head had been, carving molten lines into the wall. A second beam followed, then a third. Lyra spun, leapt, and slid, moving with uncanny precision as if she had memorized the attack pattern in advance. From above, Virala whispered, "She can't see the lasers." No species can see in absolute dark. "It is not sight," Phrex replied. "It is something else." Inside the maze, the blade in Lyra's hand warmed, a familiar heat, like a hand from long ago guiding hers. Generations of warriors had gripped this weapon. Their battles lived inside its alloy. Their instincts vibrated through its runes. It did not show her the way. It remembered the way. She reached an intersection and tapped her blade's flat side against the wall. The runes flickered once. "Yes," Lyra murmured. "I know." She pivoted right. A split second later, the left corridor flooded with compressed frost, the kind that could freeze blood solid before the brain processed the pain. The instructors erupted in alarm. "That trap was newly installed," Virala exclaimed. "Not even staff know its timing." Zarvathek leaned close enough to fog the glass. "How did she—" "Quiet," Phrex hissed. "Watch." The maze shifted again, its walls grinding into a new configuration. The floor buckled under Lyra's feet, collapsing into a pit lined with magnetized spear launchers. Without hesitation, she stabbed her blade downward. The runes pulsed, and the blade locked into the metal like an anchor. She hung suspended above the pit for half a second. Then she swung herself upward, rolling onto a stable platform just as the pit armed itself with lethal precision. Phrex spoke first. "That blade is not a relic." Zarvathek nodded slowly. "It is a database." Virala whispered the part none of them wanted to say aloud. "That weapon holds battlefield data older than the academy itself." Back inside the maze, Lyra sheathed the blade and jogged forward toward the final chamber. She exhaled once, deep and slow. She remembered her mother's voice. When a maze falls silent, that's when it's watching you back. The corridor ahead opened, and something was waiting for her. Something the instructors had not authorized. Something that shifted in the dark like folded bone and metal. The maze's unsolvable guardian. No cadet had ever survived it. Lyra only whispered, "You again." The final chamber opened like the mouth of a vast metallic beast, silent, patient, and impossibly still. The sensory dampeners remained fully active, swallowing all sound and light. Even the faint hum of the Academy's power grid was absent, but Lyra knew exactly where she was. She could trace the shape of this room in her bones. She had been here before. Not this chamber, not this academy, but in another structure built by the same architects, for the same purpose, in a war no human was ever meant to know about. A low vibration rippled through the floor. Not hostile, not threatening. Recognition. The Guardian emerged from the darkness in pieces, plates sliding, limbs unfolding, spines locking into place. It stood 3 meters tall, shaped like a predatory quadruped, but built from exotic alloys that drank in the faint glow of Lyra's blade runes. Its eyes were not lights. They were voids, perfectly reflective, aware. From the observation deck, panic erupted. "What is that doing active?" Varala slammed her palms against the console. "We decommissioned the Phase 5 Guardian last cycle. It should be inert." Zarvathek's 4 fists tightened. "Shut the chamber down." Threx's voice cut through the chaos. "We can't. The maze is in autonomous mode. We triggered the full trial when she entered. Then override it." "We tried. It's ignoring us." The Guardian lowered its head toward Lyra, and the instructors watched in horror as its kill protocols did not engage. Lyra touched 2 fingers to the runes on her blade. "You remember me," she whispered. No cadet should have known this machine existed. No human should have known its language, because it had none. The Guardian shifted a limb, tapping the metal floor twice, pausing, then tapping once more. It was a rhythm, a resonance pattern used in the Silent Front, the Coalition's most classified shadow unit. A unit that, officially, humanity had never participated in. But Lyra had learned that pattern as a child. She responded with the correct counterpattern. From the observation deck, the instructors went dead silent. That Varala's voice cracked. That is the old command cadence of the Silent Front. It hasn't been used in 50 years. "Impossible," Zarvathek growled. No human was ever cleared for Silent Front deployment. They didn't even exist back then. Threx stared at Lyra, mandibles trembling. "You fools. Humans existed. You just didn't know where." Back in the chamber, the Guardian reared up, scanning Lyra with a resonance pulse that washed over her like warm static. The runes on her blade responded, glowing faintly in acknowledgement. The Guardian stepped aside. It wasn't letting her pass. It was recognizing authority. And then, impossibly, it knelt. The observers erupted in panic, confusion, disbelief, but Lyra didn't react. She simply walked forward, her expression unchanged, her heartbeat controlled, her breathing steady. She had always known this moment would come. Her mother told her, "If it kneels, the Academy will hunt you. If it attacks, the galaxy will." She placed a hand on the Guardian's alloyed faceplate. "Sleep," she whispered. "Your war is over." The runes dimmed. The Guardian powered down. The chamber lights returned. The sensory dampeners shut off. For the first time since Lyra entered the maze, the instructors heard sound again. The metallic thud of the Guardian collapsing into dormancy. And Lyra's footsteps walking out of the impossible maze with no injuries, no fear, and no hesitation. On the observation deck, none of the instructors spoke, because all of them now understood one terrible truth. Lyra Vale didn't survive the Academy's deadliest trial. The trial survived her. The moment Lyra stepped out of the maze, the doors slammed shut behind her, sealing the chamber with a hiss that echoed through the training hall. She didn't flinch. She simply rolled her shoulders, resheathed her blade, and lifted her chin toward the observation deck. She knew they were watching. She also knew what came next. The instructors descended from the tower one by one, their footsteps heavy with disbelief. Threx arrived first, tall, insectoid, eyes glowing with a mix of fear and fascination. Zarvat followed, every limb tensed for a threat he couldn't define. Virala, crystalline and soft-spoken, approached last, her wings trembling in a way Lyra had never seen. Cadet Renna Vale. Threx began, voice dangerously low. Where did you learn those patterns? Lyra didn't answer. Zarvat stepped forward, towering over her. The silent front disbanded before your grandparents were born. No human had access to their technology, much less their command rituals. Still, Lyra remained silent. Virala's wings clicked anxiously. The Guardian recognized you. It obeyed you. She swallowed. Those machines never imprinted on humans. They couldn't. They were programmed not to. Threx leaned closer. So how did you? Lyra calmly tapped the hilt of her blade. The runes flickered in response. The instructors recoiled like they'd seen a ghost. That weapon, Virala whispered. It's older than the Coalition. Zarvat voice trembled with rage. Older than the Academy. Threx didn't speak. His gaze remained fixed on the blade's markings. Marks he now understood were not decorative. They were coordinates, dates, battle sites, all stamped into the alloy by hand, long before human spaceflight. Who gave you this? Virala asked softly. Lyra exhaled slowly. Her voice was calm, measured, but carried a weight that neither instructor expected. My mother. Threx froze. Your mother served? 4 tours, Lyra said, classified beyond top tier. She died before I was born, but she left training logs, techniques, warnings. Zarvat growled. Impossible. No human has ever. Officially, Lyra interrupted. The room fell silent. She removed the blade from her belt and held it up, not threateningly, but with reverence. My family has been fighting in your wars for more than 80 years. Before first contact, before Earth even knew who you were. The instructors exchanged horrified looks. Lyra continued, voice steady. We didn't come to the stars when you found us. We came long before. You just didn't recognize us, because we were never supposed to be recognized. Virala's eyes shimmered. Your mother trained you for this academy? No, Lyra said. She trained me for what comes after. The instructors stiffened. After? Threx's mandibles clicked nervously. Explain. Lyra sheathed the blade. The war you think is coming has already begun. The Academy is preparing for the wrong enemy. Zarvat snarled. And you know this how? Lyra finally met his gaze, calm, unflinching, because the silent front didn't fall. She touched her wrist, where a small, barely visible brand pulsed beneath the skin. They went underground, and I'm the 4th generation to carry the message. Before the instructors could respond, the hall's emergency sirens erupted, shrill and sharp. Red lights bathed the walls. A voice thundered through the Academy speakers. Unidentified vessel breaching outer perimeter. All instructors to command immediately. Lyra didn't react to the panic around her. She only closed her eyes. Right on schedule. The sirens ricocheted through the Academy corridors, sharp enough to rattle glass and shake dust from the ceiling panels. Cadets scrambled into formation. Instructors shouted commands. Security drones zipped overhead, activating defense grids that had never been used outside simulations. But Lyra stood perfectly still. The instructors noticed. Threx was the first to catch the shift in her posture, the quiet, resigned calm of someone who had already lived this moment in 100 drills. You knew this was coming, he said, voice low and accusing. Lyra didn't deny it. Zarvat grabbed her arm. What is approaching our perimeter? Lyra fixed him with a look so steady it made the giant warrior flinch. The reason the silent front went underground. The hall trembled as something massive entered the atmosphere, too heavy for coalition engines, too quiet for any known propulsion. A deep, resonant hum settled over the Academy like the breath of some ancient beast waking from hibernation. The instructors exchanged anxious glances. Command has no record of this signature, Varala whispered, staring at the pulsing emergency glyphs flooding across her wrist console. They wouldn't, Lyra said. No one alive in the Coalition has seen these ships. Not since the last breach. Threx stiffened. Breach? Which breach? Lyra slowly turned toward the towering blast doors that seal the training hall. Beyond them, the sky was darkening to a bruised violet. The air tasted metallic, charged. Wrong. The one my great-grandmother fought in, she said. The one my grandmother died in. And the one my mother prepared me for. A shockwave rolled through the academy, rattling the walls. Cadets screamed. Instructors braced. But Lyra simply tightened her grip on her blade. Varala hovered closer, voice trembling. Lyra, what are they? Lyra closed her eyes, letting the hum of the approaching ship vibrate through her bones. It was a frequency she'd heard since childhood. Played for her in training logs, etched into old recordings, whispered like a bedtime warning. They're called the Hallowed. They don't conquer planets. They consume them. Threx jolted upright. That species is a myth, an old war tale told to scare. The blast doors burst open with a sound like tearing metal. Wind ripped through the hall, and there it was, a vessel unlike anything in Coalition archives. Elongated, organic, its hull textured like petrified bone, glowing with crawling veins of void-black energy. It hovered in total silence, defying gravity, shifting subtly as though breathing. Cadets broke ranks, instinctively stepping back. Varala's wings flickered with terror. This cannot be real. Oh, it's real, Lyra murmured. They always come when a Silent Front operative is identified. Their war isn't with the Coalition. Threx's eyes widened. It's with you. All of you. Lyra nodded. My bloodline has been fighting them for 4 generations. The Academy isn't the target. Her fingers brushed the runes on her blade, which were now pulsing rapidly, reacting to the ship's presence. I am. Zarvathek snarled, stepping in front of her. Then we will defend you. Lyra shook her head. No, you can't. The sky split open in a streak of black lightning as the vessel launched its first strike. An energy spear hurtling toward the Academy with the force of an extinction event. Instructors reached for shields. Cadets screamed. Lyra drew her blade in a single fluid motion. The runes ignited like a heartbeat, and she whispered, Mom, I'm ready. The energy spear hit like a star collapsing. Silent at first, a streak of black and violet tearing through the air. The impact should have obliterated the Academy's entire western wing. Shields weren't designed for this kind of attack. They flickered helplessly, defensive turrets overloaded before they could power up. But the spear never reached the structure. Lyra moved. To onlookers, it seemed impossible. One moment she stood among the cadets, the next she was outside the shattered blast doors, blade raised. Not teleportation, not speed, just perfect timing drilled through generations of warriors who had trained for this exact attack. She slashed upward. The runes along her blade blazed white gold, brighter than any light the Academy had ever produced. The spear split in two. Both halves dissolved into dark vapor before they hit the ground. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Cadets gaped. Instructors froze. Wind whipped through the broken hall, scattering debris like confetti around the lone human standing outside. Zarvathek's voice cracked. She slashed in energy spear. Varala whispered, that attack destroys dreadnoughts. Threx's mandibles trembled. What kind of human are you? Lyra didn't answer. She was staring at the hollowed vessel as its bones shifted, as though adjusting to a new threat. Its color deepened, black bleeding into deeper black, until it resembled a wound in reality itself. Another spear formed at its core. Behind her, cadets scrambled for cover, instructors grabbing shields that suddenly felt like toys. Lyra exhaled. She wasn't scared. This was expected. They always test your cut first, her mother had said in the training logs. If you survive, they escalate. The second spear shot downward. This one was faster. Threx shouted, Lyra. but she'd already moved. She charged forward, dragging her blade along the ground. Sparks spiraled behind her, tracing a luminous arc in the air. When she leapt, it looked like the ground launched her upward. The spear neared. Lyra spun midair, one tight, controlled rotation, and brought the blade down in a diagonal strike. The spear shattered like brittle glass. Dark fragments rained around her, each dissolving into ink-black mist before touching the ground. She landed in a crouch, blade humming with residual heat. Her shoulder bled where a splinter of dark energy had grazed her. She ignored it. Her mother's voice echoed again. You will bleed, but if you bleed too much, the Hallowed will know. Don't let them smell fear. Lyra rose slowly. The hollowed vessel responded, not with anger, but with recognition. Panels along its hull opened like gills, revealing rows of tendrils that writhed and twisted, tasting the air. They're locking onto her, Varala whispered. The whole ship, it's focusing on her alone. Zarvathek unsheathed all 4 of his combat blades. Then we fight with her. No, Lyra said, turning slightly. Her voice was calm. Final. If you engage now, you die. All of you. Phrex's claws clicked. We cannot stand idle. You won't, Lyra said. But your part comes later. She pointed her blade at the vessel. The Hallowed want one thing, the bloodline blade. They can't decipher its runes while it's bonded to me. So they'll isolate me, try to sever that bond. I have to keep them from landing. The vessel's tendrils twisted together, forming a spiraling vortex that began to descend. A landing spear, the type that disgorged hollowed foot units, things that hollowed out living beings from the inside. Lyra braced. Varala's voice broke. Lyra, you can't face that alone. I'm not. She tightened both hands on her blade. I've had 3 lifetimes of training. The vortex neared the ground, and Lyra charged. The landing vortex hit with the force of a meteor, tendrils spiraling outward, drilling into soil, anchoring themselves with sickening, organic clicks. The air warped around the impact zone, colors bleeding into one another as reality strained under the vessel's influence. Cadets fled behind barricades. Instructors raised shields that flickered pathetically. Every creature present felt the pressure in their skulls. The Hallowed were not just arriving physically. They were intruding mentally. All except Lyra. She sprinted directly into the distortion. Her blade hummed, runes blazing brighter than before, resonating with an ancient signal older than any academy, older than most of the species watching her fight. The tendrils writhed toward her. Each one ended in a hooked, bone-like barb, dripping with a black fluid that disintegrated stone. One tendril snapped forward faster than a whip, aiming for her spine. Lyra pivoted, one sharp sidestep, and brought her blade down with brutal precision. The tendril severed, shrieking with a sound that wasn't heard with ears, but felt inside teeth. The severed piece spasmed on the ground, melting into smoke. Varala covered her mouth. She cut a hollowed limb. That should be impossible. They're immune to physical. Phrex silenced her. No, they're immune to modern weapons. Lyra ducked another tendril, rolling under it and slicing upward as she rose. The blade tore through the organic metal like silk. The runes shifted in color, from gold to a muted red. Zarvathek stared in disbelief. It adapts mid-fight. It's responding to the Hallowed, Phrex said, or remembering them. The vortex pulsed, and a figure emerged, humanoid in shape but wrong in every possible way. Its limbs were too long, its joints bending in unnatural angles. Its body was wrapped in layers of hardened void flesh, like armor that had grown organically. Its face was a smooth mask with no eyes, no mouth, only a single vertical slit that pulsed with dim, hungry light. A hollowed foot reaper. Cadets screamed. Instructors stumbled back. Lyra exhaled once. Her mother had described these things in her logs. Her grandmother had fought them. Her great-grandmother had killed one before she died. And now it was Lyra's turn. It stepped toward her with movements like broken marionette strings. Lyra sprinted to meet it. The Reaper swung a limb, its arm elongating mid-strike into a jagged blade of bone. Lyra ducked under the slash, sparks lighting the battlefield as the bone edge tore through metal flooring. She countered with a diagonal cut. The blade met the Reaper's body and stopped. Not fully, not cleanly, but enough to make the Reaper recoil. Threx hissed. "She's matching force with a Reaper?" Varala whispered. "Her arm should be broken." Lyra pushed harder. The blade heated, runes shifting violently, as if alive. A deep thrum echoed from it, matching the hollowed ship's hum. She wasn't just fighting the Reaper. She was syncing with the weapon. The Reaper lunged again, faster this time. Lyra slid backward, using the momentum to pivot into a thrusting stab. The blade pierced the Reaper's torso, black fluid spurting, sizzling on the ground like acid. A psychic scream ripped through everyone's minds. Cadets clutched their heads. Instructors staggered. But Lyra remained upright. Her mother's voice echoed again. "If you hear their minds, don't let them hear yours. Wall off your thoughts. Think of silence." Lyra pushed deeper, twisting the blade. The Reaper thrashed, but its form began to flicker, limbs jerking erratically. She kicked it backward. The Reaper fell to its knees, its chest cavity collapsing inward like vacuum-sealed metal. Then it imploded, sucked into itself until only a smear of dark vapor remained. Silence. True silence. Even a hollowed vessel paused. Threx whispered the only words any of them could find. She defeated a Reaper. Alone. Zarvathek stared at her with something beyond shock. Respect. Fear. Awe. But Lyra wasn't looking at them. She was staring at her blade. The runes pulsed rapidly, cycling through colors she'd never seen, as though warning her, as though waking. Varala stepped forward, voice trembling. "Lyra, what's wrong?" Lyra swallowed, eyes locked on the blade. "It's telling me something." She tightened her grip. The hollowed ship. It didn't come to kill me. She turned toward the sky, where the vessel's hull began to peel open like a chrysalis. It came to retrieve me. The instructors froze, and Lyra whispered, "They think I belong to them." The sky tore open. The hollowed vessel unfolded like a colossal, living flower, petals of bone metal retracting to expose a dark inner chamber spiraling endlessly inward. The air vibrated with a low, subsonic pulse that made cadets drop to their knees and instructors grit their teeth. To Lyra, the pulse felt familiar, uncomfortably familiar. The runes on her blade flared in frantic rhythm, reacting as though trying to shield her from something. She tightened her grip instinctively. Zarvathek took a protective step toward her. "Lyra, stay behind us." "We can." "No," Lyra said sharply. "You can't." The interior of the hollowed ship glowed with a deep, pulsing crimson, unlike its usual void-black energy. The pattern lit up in spirals, intricate and deliberate. The same spiral found on Lyra's wrist. The one she'd always believed was a silent front brand. Varala gasped. "Your wrist, it's glowing in sync with the ship." Lyra looked down. The spiral mark beneath her skin pulsed brighter and brighter, matching the vessel's heartbeat perfectly. A cold dread seeped through her. "No," she breathed. "No, this isn't right. This isn't what my mother said." Threx's mandibles clicked nervously. "Lyra, what did your mother tell you about that mark?" Lyra hesitated, because the truth suddenly felt dangerous to speak. She said it was a signal generator, a silent front encryption scar, a way to identify operatives when tech failed. But the instructors were no longer looking at the mark. They were staring at the ship, because the mark was no human encryption pattern. It was a hollowed genetic resonance code, a beacon. Zarvathek's voice trembled. "Lyra, that is not a coalition mark. That is not human tech. It can't be." Lyra snapped, stepping back. "My mother, my whole family, fought them. We killed them. We..." The ship pulsed again, and this time, Lyra felt an answer pulse in her chest, like someone knocking on a locked door inside her bones. She staggered. Varala rushed forward. "Lyra, what's happening?" Lyra clutched her chest, gasping. "I don't know." Images flooded her mind like a broken dam. Not memories, not hers, but impressions, shapes, colors, voices made of vibrations. A cradle of bone metal. A chamber of spirals. Hands. No, not hands. Limbs of living alloy lifting her as an infant. A human woman screaming, fighting, bleeding. Her mother. Wresting the infant Lyra from hollowed grasp. A woman who had lied about what really happened. Lyra fell to her knees. No, no. She said I was born a silent front outpost. She said. Threx steadied her shoulder. Lyra breathed. But Lyra couldn't breathe. Because the truth slammed into her all at once. She had never been born in a silent front outpost. She had been rescued from a hollowed birthing vault. Her mother hadn't branded her. She had carved the spiral mark deeper to mask its true meaning, hoping the Coalition would mistake it for human-made. Zarvathek's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. You weren't trained to fight the Hollowed. The vessel's inner chamber brightened, reacting to her distress. Threx finished the sentence with horror. You were engineered by them. The world lurched. The air thickened. And Lyra's blade, her family's ancient weapon, began to vibrate violently, as though trying to sever her connection to the ship. The runes blazed white. The ship pulsed crimson. Her wrist mark burned. And Lyra screamed, not in fear, in awakening. Lyra's scream echoed through the hollowed vessel, bouncing off its biometal walls like a chorus of 1,000 voices. Her pulse raced, but the rhythm inside her wrist began to calm. The spirals etched beneath her skin weren't just a beacon. They were a key. The instructors watched, frozen. Zarvathek's antennae twitched nervously. Threx's claws scraped the floor, and Varala's eyes widened in disbelief. No one had expected a human to survive this long inside a hollowed vessel without immediate annihilation. Lyra's breath came in ragged gasps, but a strange clarity began to settle in her mind. Memories and instincts not her own, or perhaps buried so deep they had become dormant, flooded back. She knew the weight of strategies her ancestors had never spoken aloud, combat sequences her mother had drilled into her through stories and shadows, and the deadly grace of a human who had faced extinction multiple times before reaching the academy. Her blade, pulsing now in sync with her heartbeat, seemed to hum a response. The alien inscriptions, once indecipherable, now resonated with her very being. It wasn't just a weapon, it was an archive. A chronicle of humanity's clandestine wars, of battles fought in secret corners of the galaxy. The blade itself remembered, and so did she. The vessel responded. The crimson pulses slowed, but grew wider, circling her like a living cage. It was testing her, probing for weaknesses. For an instant, the vessel's mind seemed to merge with hers, trying to measure her limits, to understand whether she was predator or prey. Lyra's instinct screamed, fight, analyze, survive. She shifted her stance, the tip of her blade pointing toward the spiraling chamber ahead. Every muscle, every nerve, every ounce of training ignited. In a fluid motion, she sent a pulse through the weapon, and the spirals in the walls recoiled, almost as if the vessel itself flinched. By the stars, Varala whispered. It's reacting to her, not the weapon. Zarvathek's voice trembled. It's learning through her. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she stepped forward. She could see the sequence of the vessel's defenses, the corridors folding into traps, the patterns of energy fields that no alien cadet could predict. She didn't just see them, she felt them. The hidden legacy of humanity surged within her. She realized that all those years of covert operations, the wars fought in secret before Earth even knew it had a place in the stars, were encoded in her very DNA, in the rhythm of her pulse, in the blade she had been told was merely ceremonial. A whisper came through her mind. Not her voice, not her mother's, not even human, but something ancestral, something older than the Coalition itself. You are the bridge, the weapon and the shield. You do not run from the Hollowed. You command them. Lyra's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. She raised her blade, feeling the currents of power thrumming through her. The vessel pulsed back, testing her again, and she was ready. No hesitation, no doubt. She was human. and humans survived where others fell. The first strike would come now. Lyra's blade arced through the dim chamber, cutting a ribbon of white-hot energy that traced the spiraling defenses of the hollowed vessel. The walls shuddered as if the ship itself was protesting. Every pulse of her weapon, every motion she made, was guided by instinct and memory older than any record kept by the Coalition. The instructors watched in awe and horror. Threx's claws clattered uselessly, Zarvathek's antennae stiffened, and Virala's wings twitched nervously. None could comprehend the cadence of her movements. She didn't merely react, she predicted. She shaped the battlefield around her. The vessel, for all its alien engineering and calculated threat, began to fold in upon itself, neutralizing its own defenses in what looked like chaotic self-destruction. But it was a dance Lyra led with uncanny precision. She moved with grace born of countless battles she had never actually fought, a legacy of shadow warriors encoded in every fiber of her being. Her earthborn seal glowed faintly, a pulse of hidden authority, signaling to all who could read it that the galaxy underestimated humanity at its peril. One by one, the Hollowed's automated turrets faltered, energy grids overloaded, defense corridors collapsed inward. The vessel's attempts to cage her were futile. Lyra's training, combined with instincts honed over generations, turned near-certain death into a tactical advantage. Then came the moment of truth. The vessel's core, a swirling orb of alien energy, began to react violently, the room vibrating with the potential to annihilate anyone in its radius. Lyra focused, aligning her blade with the pulse of the core. It wasn't about destruction, it was about control, about asserting human ingenuity over something designed to be unstoppable. A single strike, precise, deliberate, reverberated through the chamber. The energy core's pulse synchronized with the blade, and for a heartbeat, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a surge of contained force, the vessel's core stabilized, bending to her command rather than exploding. The danger was neutralized without unnecessary carnage. The instructors blinked. Virala's wings drooped in disbelief. Zarvathek swayed. Threx muttered a guttural sound no one could translate. The cadets, hidden behind reinforced observation panels, stared in awe. Lyra lowered her blade. The vessel now hummed softly, almost reverently, as if acknowledging the human who had just walked through its defenses with calm precision. She had not only survived, it had learned from her. Vel'krath, who had been observing silently, finally spoke. This human, she doesn't just adapt. She rewrites the rules of engagement. She teaches the impossible. Lyra's eyes scanned the chamber. She didn't boast, didn't gloat. She was just a human doing what humans had always done. Face disaster, understand it, and emerge alive and stronger. In the aftermath, the instructors revised their evaluations. The cadets whispered in awe, and the Coalition took note. Humanity was not just present in the galaxy. They were a force of hidden mastery, shaping outcomes in ways no one could predict. And Lyra? She walked out of the hollowed vessel quietly, as though nothing had happened, her earthborn seal glinting faintly in the ambient light. To the galaxy, she was one human among many. To those who understood, she was a living legend, the embodiment of human adaptability, cunning, and resilience. Sometimes, the most dangerous beings in the universe don't shout. They fix armor, carry a hidden legacy, and step forward only when it's absolutely necessary. And when they do, everything changes.